She grew up in a small place where everyone knew each other and everyone talked. From a young age, people noticed her gentle face and soft smile. They would say she was lucky, that life would be easy for her because she was pretty. But no one ever asked how she felt inside. She learned early that attention could feel heavy, and that praise could slowly turn into pressure. She lived in a house where love was limited and expectations were high. Some people around her admired her, but others looked at her with quiet jealousy. They compared her to themselves, to their own children, to dreams they never reached. Slowly, small comments became sharp words. She was told she thought too highly of herself, even though she never did. She learned to stay quiet, to avoid mirrors, to make herself small. As she grew older, life became harder. Money was always short, and arguments were common. She worked whenever she could, helping others, cleaning, running errands, doing anything honest. People smiled at her face, but spoke badly behind her back. They judged her kindness as weakness. Still, she never responded with anger. She believed that staying good was better than becoming bitter. There was one woman in the house who disliked her deeply. Every smile she received felt like an insult to that woman. Every compliment sounded like an attack. She watched her closely, waiting for a mistake. She controlled her life, her clothes, her movements, her freedom. Slowly, she planted fear and doubt in her heart, making her feel guilty for simply existing. One evening, a terrible argument broke out. Words were said that could never be taken back. Accusations filled the room, loud and cruel. No one listened to her side. No one cared about the truth. In that moment, she realized how alone she truly was. Her tears meant nothing. Her pain was invisible. Soon after, tragedy struck in a way she never imagined. A cruel act, born from anger and jealousy, changed her life forever. The damage was not just physical. It reached deep into her soul. When she looked at herself afterward, she did not recognize the person staring back. The beauty everyone once talked about was gone, and with it, the little protection she had. The world's reaction was even more painful. People stared without shame. Some whispered. Others looked away. A few spoke kindly, but most treated her like a problem they didn't want to deal with. She felt like she had lost her value overnight. Doors closed. Opportunities disappeared. Even sympathy felt shallow. She tried to stay strong, but nights were long and heavy. She would sit alone, thinking about how fast life had changed. She remembered how people once smiled at her and how now they barely noticed her. She asked herself what she had done wrong, even though deep down she knew it wasn't her fault. Despite everything, she did not give up. She forced herself to wake up each day. She covered her pain and stepped outside, even when fear followed her. She took small jobs no one else wanted. She accepted insults silently. She learned how to survive without expecting kindness. Inside her, something slowly changed. Her heart became quiet but strong. She stopped hoping for rescue. She stopped waiting for fairness. Instead, she focused on staying alive, staying honest, staying human. She promised herself that no matter how cruel the world became, she would not lose her soul. She did not know it yet, but this broken beginning was shaping her future. The loss that destroyed her old life was preparing her for a new one. Fate was watching quietly, waiting for the right moment. And though her beauty was taken from her, something far greater was waiting ahead. It a connection that would see her worth beyond her scars. This was only the start of her journey. A painful opening chapter that would lead her somewhere she never dreamed of reaching. After everything changed, life did not slow down to give her time to heal. The days kept moving, demanding effort from someone who felt empty inside. She had no choice but to continue. Staying still meant sinking deeper into thoughts she could not control. So she kept going, step by step, even when every step felt heavy. She moved out of the house where her pain had begun. There was no farewell, no apology, no concern, just silence. She carried a small bag with a few clothes and memories she could not leave behind. The world outside felt bigger and colder. She realized how unprepared she was. Yet she walked forward because there was nowhere else to go. Finding work became difficult. People judged her before she spoke. Some looked uncomfortable. Others pretended to be kind, but never called back. She learned how rejection could happen without words. Finally, she found work doing tasks others avoided. Long hours, little pay, no respect. Still, she accepted it with gratitude because survival mattered more than pride. Every morning, she stood in front of a mirror for a brief moment. Not to admire herself, but to prepare her face for the world. She learned how to hide her pain behind calm eyes. She dressed simply and avoided attention. She spoke softly and kept her distance. It was easier to stay unnoticed than to face judgment. People around her had their own struggles, but few cared to understand hers. Some treated her as if she were fragile. Others acted as if she were invisible. She felt like she existed between two worlds, not fully part of either. Yet she listened more than she spoke, observing life quietly from the sidelines. At night, exhaustion would take over her body, but sleep did not come easily. Memories returned when the world went quiet. She replayed moments she wished she could forget. Sometimes tears came without warning. Other times, she felt nothing at all. Both scared her equally. One evening, while returning from work, she noticed a small child crying near the roadside. Without thinking, she stopped. She knelt down, spoke gently, and waited until help arrived. It was a simple act, but it reminded her of something important. She still had the ability to care. Her heart still responded to others. That moment stayed with her. She realized that while her outer life had changed, her inner self was still alive. She began to help where she could, even in small ways. Sharing food, listening to others, offering quiet support. These acts did not change her situation, but they gave her purpose. Slowly, people began to notice her for reasons unrelated to appearance. They saw her reliability, her patience, her honesty. She never complained, even when treated unfairly. She never spoke badly about anyone. Trust grew naturally around her, like a soft light that did not demand attention. Still, the past followed her closely. There were days when a single look from a stranger reopened old wounds. There were moments when she questioned her strength and wondered how long she could continue. But each time she felt close to giving up, something small pulled her back. A kind word, a warm cup of tea, a quiet sunrise. She stopped dreaming of a perfect future. Instead, she focused on getting through each day with dignity. She learned to accept herself as she was, even if the world did not. She no longer waited for people to see her worth. She started to believe it herself. Without realizing it, she was changing. Her pain was shaping her into someone stronger, someone deeper. The world had taken much from her, but it had not taken her ability to love, to endure, to remain human, and somewhere beyond her awareness. Fate was preparing a meeting that would change everything. Her journey was far from over. The road ahead was uncertain, but she was no longer walking blindly. She carried her scars with quiet courage, unaware that they would soon become the very reason someone would see her differently than everyone else ever had. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. But her life continued in the same quiet, difficult way. She had learned to survive, to accept the hard reality without expecting miracles. Yet deep down, there was a part of her that still believed life could change. She did not know when or how, but hope was a small flame she refused to let die. One afternoon, she walked along the busy streets, carrying a basket of small goods she had prepared for sale. The sun was warm, and the crowd moved around her like a river. She tried to stay invisible, as she always did, avoiding eyes and keeping her pace steady. Suddenly, a commotion ahead caught her attention. A small child had dropped a heavy bag and was struggling to pick it up. People passed by without helping, lost in their own worlds. Without thinking, she rushed forward. She lifted the bag and handed it to the child, speaking gently so as not to frighten them. The child's mother came running, gratitude shining in her eyes. For the first time in a long time, someone truly thanked her, and it warmed her heart. It was a reminder that, even in her own struggles, she could still make a difference. That simple act became the beginning of something unexpected. A man had been watching from a distance. He did not speak to her immediately, only observed quietly, noticing her kindness, her patience, her gentle demeanor. He was a man of influence, a person who rarely paid attention to ordinary people. Yet something about her stayed in his mind. He could not explain why, but he felt a pull, curiosity that demanded he learn more. Days later, their paths crossed again. She was working at a small shop, arranging goods, when the same man entered. He did not ask for much, only inquired politely about items and made small conversation. She noticed his presence immediately, but did not let her surprise show. She had learned to remain composed no matter what life threw at her. As the days passed, their encounters became more frequent. Sometimes he visited the shop, sometimes he passed by on the street, always finding a reason to speak. Slowly, trust began to grow. She realized he treated her differently than anyone else had. There was no judgment, no pity, no expectation. He simply listened, observed, and valued her presence. This was new for her. For so long, she had been judged for appearances, spoken about behind her back, ignored or ridiculed. Now, someone saw her for what she truly was. It was a strange and powerful feeling. She began to feel emotions she had thought were buried forever: excitement, curiosity, a quiet hope that maybe life could be different. Their conversations were simple but meaningful. He asked about her day, her dreams, her thoughts on small things most people would never notice. She found herself opening up, telling him things she had never shared with anyone. There was a connection, subtle but growing, that neither could explain yet. Both felt strongly. As time went on, she noticed subtle changes in herself. She smiled more easily. She felt lighter, though the weight of the past still lingered. Her courage grew with each interaction, each kind word, each moment of understanding. She realized that being seen and valued could heal wounds in ways nothing else could. One evening, as the sun set and the streets filled with soft light, he stopped beside her on the sidewalk. They spoke quietly about life, about dreams that had faded, about moments they wished could be different. She realized that, despite their very different worlds, their hearts connected in a way that transcended appearances and status. She did not yet know where this connection would lead, but she felt the stirrings of trust, the first whispers of love. It was unexpected, and yet it felt natural. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future where someone valued her for who she was. Not for what she looked like. Her life had been filled with hardship, betrayal, and pain, yet this simple human connection reminded her that kindness still existed in the world. It reminded her that even after losing so much, she could still be seen, still be valued, still be loved. This meeting, this gentle bond, was the turning point she did not know she had been waiting for. It was subtle, quiet, almost invisible to the world, but it carried the power to change everything. Slowly, carefully, her heart began to open, preparing for a journey that would lead to unexpected happiness, to recognition beyond appearances, and to a destiny she had never imagined. The days ahead were uncertain, but for the first time, she did not face them with fear alone. Someone had seen her, truly seen her, and that was enough to begin believing that life could still hold miracles. As the days passed, the quiet connection between her and the man grew stronger. It was subtle at first, small gestures and shared moments that others might not notice. But for her, each encounter was meaningful. Each kind word, each glance that carried understanding, felt like a lifeline she had been waiting for her entire life. She began to look forward to his visits, not because of anything he could give her materially, but because he saw her. He noticed the effort she put into her work, the way she treated others, the courage she carried silently through every difficult day. It was a new experience, to be truly recognized and valued without judgment. It changed her, slowly and quietly, teaching her that her worth was not defined by appearances or by the cruelty of the past. At first she was cautious. Her life had taught her to be careful with trust. She had been hurt before, betrayed, and misunderstood. Yet there was something in him that felt different. He never rushed her, never demanded more than she could give. He spoke gently, listened intently, and showed patience she had not expected. She found herself opening up in ways she had not done for years. One afternoon, As she worked arranging goods in her small space, he entered unexpectedly. They spoke for a while, and she shared thoughts about her life, the struggles, the moments of quiet hope she still held. He listened without interruption, his eyes reflecting understanding, not judgment. She realized that she could be honest with him, truly honest, without fear of rejection. Over the following weeks, their friendship deepened. He began to include her in small experiences beyond her daily routine. He took her to places she had never seen, places that felt magical simply because he was there. She felt a sense of wonder returning to her life, a feeling she had not experienced in years. With each new day, she discovered courage she thought had been lost forever. Yet, life had not entirely let go of its challenges. People still judged her when they could, and some continued to whisper behind her back. At times, her heart sank under the weight of old memories and new insecurities. She questioned whether she deserved this kindness, this attention, this budding connection. But each time she faltered, he was there, steady and reassuring, reminding her that she was worthy of care, worthy of love. As their bond grew, he began to share parts of his life with her too. She learned that despite his success and wealth, he had faced struggles of his own. He had experienced loss, loneliness, and moments when life felt unbearable. These stories created a bridge between them, a shared understanding that transcended their different worlds. She realized that everyone carried invisible burdens, and that strength was not defined by what people could see on the outside. One evening, as they walked together through a quiet street, he gently took her hand. It was not a sudden act of romance, but a quiet gesture of trust and connection. Her heart fluttered, and yet she felt safe. She realized that she had begun to believe in something she had once thought impossible, that someone could care for her completely, without condition. Without expectation, their relationship continued to grow in small, meaningful ways. He offered support when she struggled, encouragement when she doubted herself, and always patient understanding. She began to notice that her own confidence was returning. She spoke with more clarity, held her head a little higher, and allowed herself small joys without guilt. She was learning to live again, not just survive, but life, as always, had tests in store. One day, a misunderstanding arose that challenged the trust they had built. People from his world questioned why he was spending time with her. Rumors and assumptions spread quietly but sharply, threatening to undermine the connection they had nurtured. For a moment, doubt crept into her heart. She wondered if their bond could withstand the pressure, if the world would allow their story to unfold. He, however, did not waver. He stood by her, defending her when others doubted, protecting her when gossip threatened. His actions spoke louder than words ever could. In that moment, she understood that his care was genuine, unshakable, and not tied to appearances or social expectations. The world could question, judge, and misunderstand, but what mattered was the truth between them. Through these challenges, she discovered something vital about herself as well. She realized that she did not need validation from the world. Her worth was inherent, not dependent on beauty, wealth, or approval. This understanding grew quietly inside her, strengthened by the man who saw her, respected her, and valued her for who she truly was. By the time the challenges had passed, they had formed a bond that was rare and profound. It was built on trust, understanding, and shared humanity. She felt a sense of peace she had never known, a quiet assurance that she could face whatever life might bring next. The past, with all its pain and loss, had shaped her, but it no longer defined her. In the weeks that followed, life began to feel lighter. She laughed more easily, dreamed more openly, and allowed herself to hope again. She had learned that love could come quietly, without drama, without demands, and that it could heal even the deepest wounds. The billionaire's steady presence had shown her that true care was not about appearances, wealth, or status. It was about seeing, understanding, and choosing to stay. Her life was changing, not through magic, but through patience, trust, and the unwavering kindness of someone who saw her worth. She was no longer just surviving. She was beginning to live, to embrace the possibility that the world could hold goodness, connection, and even love, despite everything she had endured. and as her heart slowly opened to this new chapter, she sensed that her destiny was finally beginning to unfold in ways she had never imagined. Time continued its quiet march, and her life, once filled with struggle and uncertainty, began to feel more alive. The man she had come to trust, to care for, and to rely upon had shown her that true connection was possible, and she could finally allow herself to believe in it. The small flame of hope she had kept alive through years of hardship now burned steadily, lighting the path to a future she had never imagined. Every day, she discovered more about her own strength. She had survived cruel words, rejection, and loss, and yet she stood resilient. Now, she began to see that her experiences, painful as they were, had taught her empathy, patience, and compassion. She found that she could help others in ways she had never imagined, offering kindness and understanding that came from a place of genuine experience. Their relationship had grown naturally over time. It was not marked by dramatic gestures or declarations, but by quiet understanding, mutual respect, and shared moments of joy. He had introduced her to new experiences, places, and perspectives, but always with care, never pushing beyond her comfort. Each step forward was deliberate and thoughtful, allowing trust and love to grow without fear or rush. One evening, as they sat together watching the sun dip below the horizon, she reflected on how far she had come. From a life of judgment and loss to a place where she felt valued, safe, and seen, the change was remarkable. She realized that beauty, the kind society once celebrated, was not what mattered. What mattered was character, kindness, resilience, and the capacity to love and be loved. The world around her began to notice the transformation as well. People who had once ignored or judged her now saw her confidence, calm presence, and quiet strength. Yet, it was not attention that defined her happiness. It was the deep understanding and connection she shared with the man who had chosen to see her soul, not her appearance. Life was not without challenges. Old wounds and moments of doubt still surfaced occasionally. There were days when memories of the past brought tears, and moments when she questioned whether she was worthy of this new chapter. But each time, he reminded her gently, not with words alone, but with patience, care, and unwavering presence. His actions reinforced what she was learning about herself, that she deserved love, respect, and happiness. Slowly, she began to embrace a life filled with possibility. She laughed more freely, dreamed more openly, and allowed herself small joys without guilt. She realized that happiness was not a destination but a practice, conscious choice to see beauty in simple moments, to recognize kindness, and to value her own worth. With him by her side, she felt supported in her journey toward fully living again. Over time, she also discovered the strength to reconnect with parts of her life she had abandoned. She began to help those in need, using her experiences to guide and support others. The kindness she had received was now mirrored in the care she offered to strangers and friends alike. It was a way to honor her own journey, transforming her pain into purpose. As their bond deepened, she realized that love could exist quietly, gently, without spectacle or grand declarations. It was built on trust, understanding, and shared humanity. The man's unwavering respect and recognition of her worth had taught her that relationships could nurture growth and healing, rather than demand perfection or beauty. The day came when she fully understood the impact of her journey. She looked at herself, at the woman who had once been judged solely for her appearance, and she saw someone strong, compassionate, and resilient. Her beauty had been taken by cruel circumstances, but her heart, mind, and spirit had grown richer than anyone could measure. And in the eyes of the man who loved her, she was priceless, perfect in her humanity. With this realization, a profound sense of peace settled over her. She had endured, survived, and grown. The hardships of her past no longer defined her. They had shaped her into someone capable of love, kindness, and joy. Destiny had led her through suffering to a place where she could finally thrive, supported by someone who recognized her true worth. Together, they moved forward into life, not as people defined by status, appearance, or past misfortune, but as partners in trust, understanding, and love. Their connection was a testament to the power of seeing and valuing someone for who they truly are. Beyond the superficial, beyond society's judgments, her journey, from beauty taken to heart seen, had reached a place of fulfillment. She had learned that true destiny was not about what was lost, but about what could be nurtured, honored, and recognized. Her life, once shadowed by cruelty and doubt, was now brightened by connection, love, and the realization that her worth had always been hers, waiting for someone with a heart to notice it. And in this truth, she found freedom, peace, and the beginning of a new, beautiful chapter that belonged entirely to her. After her life had begun to shift toward hope and connection, she discovered that true transformation was not only about love from others, but also about discovering strength within herself. Each day offered new challenges, but now she faced them not as a victim, but as a person who had endured and learned. The experiences of her past no longer chained her. They had become lessons that guided her toward resilience and wisdom. She continued to work in small ways that mattered to her, helping people quietly without expectation of reward or recognition. Her acts of kindness began to ripple outward, touching lives in ways she did not always see. A child smiled at her, a neighbor thanked her for listening, a stranger appreciated her honesty. These small moments reminded her that goodness could thrive. Even in a world that had once seemed cruel, the man who had become her support and companion stood quietly by her side. They did not need to speak every thought aloud. Their connection had grown so deep that understanding often passed between them without words. He encouraged her to pursue her interests, to take small risks, and to explore a world that she had once thought closed to her. Each new experience helped her realize the vastness of possibilities beyond the struggles she had endured. One day, she encountered a situation that tested her patience and compassion in ways she had not expected. A young woman, facing hardships similar to her own past, reached out for help. Without hesitation, she offered guidance, encouragement, and support, sharing her own story gently to inspire hope. In helping this person, she recognized how far she had come. She was no longer the frightened girl of the past. She was a person capable of lifting others. As time passed, her confidence continued to grow. She began to speak with assurance, make decisions independently, and trust her instincts. She no longer relied solely on the validation of others. Even though the man she cared for remained a steady source of encouragement, she understood that her worth came from within, strengthened by her journey and the lessons she had learned. The world around her began to notice subtle changes as well. People who had once dismissed her presence started to acknowledge her quietly. Respect replaced judgment. Her voice, once soft and hesitant, carried a calm authority in interactions with others. She found that she could navigate challenges with grace, balancing compassion with clear boundaries. Life had not made her weak. It had honed her strength. She also began to reconnect with her passions and dreams that she had abandoned. Simple joys, like reading, walking through the park, or sharing small meals with friends, became significant moments of fulfillment. She discovered that happiness could be cultivated through mindfulness and gratitude, appreciating the present rather than dwelling on past pain. Each day became an opportunity to embrace life more fully. Her relationship with the man deepened into a quiet, unshakable partnership. They faced the world together, understanding each other in ways that words alone could not capture. They celebrated each small victory, supported each other through doubts, and created a space where honesty and vulnerability were met with care, not judgment. Their connection demonstrated that love could be steady, patient, and transformative. Occasionally, reminders of her past would appear, moments when old fears or insecurities returned. Yet, she faced them with the wisdom she had gained. She acknowledged the pain without letting it control her, transforming anxiety into strength. Each challenge became an opportunity to reinforce her sense of self, to prove to herself that she could endure and grow stronger. One meaningful afternoon, she found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this place. She remembered the moments of isolation, ridicule, and loss, and realized that each had contributed to the person she had become. Painful as they were, Those experiences had shaped her empathy, her patience, and her ability to love deeply. She understood that her story was not defined by suffering alone, but by resilience, courage, and the capacity to embrace life fully in this stage of her life. She began to envision the future with hope rather than fear. She considered opportunities for growth, ways to contribute meaningfully to the community, and paths that allowed her to expand her experiences. She realized that freedom was not only escaping the past, but actively shaping her present and future, taking ownership of her life in ways she had never thought possible. Her interactions with others became richer, informed by the empathy she had cultivated through her journey. She learned to listen deeply, offer support without expectation, and maintain integrity even when faced with misunderstanding or criticism. Her presence brought comfort and inspiration to those around her, demonstrating that a person's worth is not measured by appearances, but by the depth of character and the capacity for kindness. Slowly, she noticed that her own joy and confidence radiated outward, influencing the environment around her. Friends and acquaintances responded to her warmth and strength. Challenges that had once seemed insurmountable were now met with calm determination. The woman who had once been silenced by fear now spoke with purpose and authenticity. Embracing life fully without reservation, she realized that her journey had come full circle. The hardships that had once seemed cruel and isolating had ultimately prepared her for a life of connection, meaning, and personal fulfillment. She had learned that beauty, as others once defined it, was fleeting and superficial, while the qualities of courage, resilience, compassion, and understanding were enduring and transformative. Through her experiences, she became a beacon of hope for others facing adversity. Her story illustrated that even in the darkest moments, strength could be found, and that true connection with another human being could bring profound healing. She understood that destiny was not simply about external recognition, but about discovering and embracing one's inner worth and the ability to love and be loved fully. As she stood at this new point in her life, she felt a deep sense of peace. She had endured, she had grown, and she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. The man who had been by her side shared in this sense of fulfillment, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had undertaken together. Life had taught her that while beauty could be taken, the heart, courage, and character of a person could never be diminished. In the quiet moments of reflection, she recognized that her life was now a testament to resilience, hope, and the power of human connection. The pain of the past was no longer a shadow over her present. It was a foundation upon which she had built strength and empathy. She understood that true destiny is shaped not by circumstances, but by the choices to rise, to grow, and to embrace life fully. With this understanding, she moved forward with confidence, embracing each day with gratitude and courage. She was no longer defined by what had been taken from her, but by the love, strength, and purpose she had cultivated. Her life, once marked by loss and struggle, had become a story of triumph, resilience, and enduring human spirit. And in this realization, she found the freedom to fully live, love, and create the life she had always deserved. By now, her life had settled into a rhythm she never thought possible. There were still challenges, of course, but she had learned to meet them with patience and wisdom. Each morning she woke up. She reminded herself of how far she had come from a life defined by judgment and cruelty to one filled with purpose, trust, and quiet joy. The world no longer felt like a threat, but a place full of possibilities she had earned through her resilience. Her relationship with the man had grown stronger and deeper. It was no longer a simple connection, but a partnership built on mutual respect, understanding, and shared values. They celebrated small victories together, supported each other through difficulties, and found comfort in the quiet moments when words were unnecessary. She began to realize that love could be steady, gentle, and transformative, without the need for grand gestures or dramatic declarations. One morning, she decided to revisit a place from her past. It was a street, a corner, a shop that reminded her of the days when survival was her only goal. Walking there brought back memories, painful ones, yes, but also moments of quiet courage that she had never acknowledged. She remembered the fear she once carried, the humiliation, and the loneliness. But instead of feeling sorrow, she felt pride. She had survived all of it, and more importantly, she had grown as she stood there. Reflecting on her journey, a young woman approached her with hesitation. The young woman's eyes mirrored the same fear and uncertainty she had felt years ago. She introduced herself timidly, explaining that she had faced hardships and people who judged her by her appearance rather than her character. Without hesitation, she listened. She offered encouragement and shared lessons from her own life, illustrating that resilience and inner strength could create a brighter future. Helping the young woman reminded her of the power she had gained from her experiences. She realized that her past pain had become a source of empathy and guidance for others. Each story she shared, each word of advice, became a bridge that connected her to someone who was walking a path she had once traveled. It was a profound moment. She understood that her life, once shadowed by loss, had become a light for others. Meanwhile, her work and daily routines continued to expand. She took on responsibilities that challenged her, but with each challenge, her confidence grew. She learned to navigate situations with tact and courage, balancing compassion with firmness. She found that people trusted her, not just for her skills, but for the honesty and sincerity she carried in every interaction. Her presence inspired reliability, patience, and warmth in those around her. As the months went by, she discovered new talents and interests she had long forgotten or ignored. She explored creative outlets, simple joys, and small adventures that nurtured her spirit. Painting, reading, volunteering, each activity reminded her that life could be fulfilling beyond survival, that joy could exist even in the ordinary. The realization that she could embrace her passions without fear or guilt added richness to her life. Her relationship with the man continued to evolve naturally. They discussed their dreams, shared fears, and created plans for the future. The partnership was one of equals, neither dominated, neither demanded. Instead, they supported and complemented each other, building a bond that was rare, resilient, and deeply rooted in mutual understanding. They celebrated life together, quietly and meaningfully, discovering happiness in small moments rather than seeking validation from the outside world. Challenges still appeared, as life always presents obstacles. Some days brought reminders of the judgments she had once faced, or situations that tested her patience and compassion. Yet she met them with the skills she had cultivated over years of struggle. She had learned to confront difficulty without fear, to assess situations calmly, and to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Each challenge was an opportunity to reinforce her strength and wisdom. One day, an unexpected opportunity arose. She was invited to speak to a group of young women who were navigating difficulties similar to those she had endured. She hesitated at first, recalling the insecurity and fear that had once silenced her. But then she remembered the lessons she had learned at the value of resilience, the importance of inner strength, and the power of empathy. She agreed, stepping into a new role as a guide and mentor. The event was transformative. She shared her story honestly, not to seek sympathy, but to inspire hope. She spoke of struggles and triumphs, of loneliness and courage, and of the unexpected kindness that had changed her life. The women listened attentively, some with tears, some with smiles, all recognizing the authenticity in her words. For her, it was a moment of fulfillment, a chance to turn her past into a tool for guiding and uplifting others. As her influence grew, she realized that her life had become a cycle of giving and receiving. The support she had once received from the man and from the quiet kindness of others now flowed outward, touching many lives in small but meaningful ways. Each interaction reinforced the lessons she had learned: resilience, patience, kindness, and the ability to find purpose even after pain. Through all of this, she maintained her inner balance. She no longer measured her worth by beauty, wealth, or approval. Instead, she measured it by the depth of her empathy, the strength of her character, and her ability to positively impact the lives of those around her. Each day she reminded herself that true value is inherent and not determined by external circumstances, her relationship continued to provide a foundation for her growth. But she understood that her journey was hers alone as well. She had learned to navigate life with confidence, independence, and compassion. She had discovered that love and support amplify strength, but do not replace the personal responsibility of embracing one's own path. As she reflected on the years she had endured, she realized that her story was one of triumph over adversity, not just survival. She had transformed her pain into purpose, her fear into courage, and her isolation into connection. Her life had become a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of empathy, and the enduring capacity of the human heart to heal and flourish. Looking ahead, she envisioned a future filled with continued growth, connection, and meaningful experiences. She understood that life would still bring challenges, but she no longer faced them with fear or uncertainty. She faced them with confidence, wisdom, and the knowledge that she had already endured and overcome so much. Her past, once a source of pain, had become a foundation for strength and purpose. The woman who had once been defined by her beauty, by the judgments of others, and by the cruelty of circumstances, had become a symbol of resilience and hope. Her journey showed that even after loss, hardship, and rejection, a person could rebuild, grow, and thrive. She had discovered that true fulfillment comes from within, nurtured by courage, empathy, and the support of those who recognize one's true worth. In her quiet moments, she reflected on the journey, appreciating the lessons and growth that had brought her here. She had learned that beauty is fleeting, circumstances are unpredictable, but strength, love, and purpose are enduring. Her story continued, not as a tale of loss, but as a living testament to the power of human resilience, the importance of compassion, and the transformative force of kindness and trust. With this understanding, she moved forward with her life fully embraced. Each day became an opportunity to nurture connections, pursue growth, and inspire hope. Her journey was ongoing, yet she no longer feared the future. She had learned that true destiny is shaped not by what is taken, but by how one chooses to rise, to give, and to live authentically. And in this truth, she found freedom, joy, and the power to create a life of enduring meaning and fulfillment.